man. I made scones on Thursday,
Hmm.
and they're not great, but I kind of feel like I need to eat them. This is my worst food service experience.
Welcome back to What's Your Worst, the podcast where we talk about things that suck. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about the food service industry and our worst stories from it, as we previously worked in the food service industry. Simon as like a line cook and a sous chef, and me as a delivery driver. Well, you weren't a
Nope.
sous chef.
No, no,
I
no, no, no.
misremember
Not at
everything.
all. Sous chef is second in command. I was never second in command.
Second in command in my heart and on this
No.
podcast. Um,
Wait.
just kidding. He's
This
the
was
editor
my idea.
and the person who came up with this idea in the first place. If anything, I am just the talkative one. I am Simon Sous Chef.
I was actually going through as I was editing the last podcast, I was um noticing that between me and Jeff, I think we took up the majority of the time,
I
and
didn't talk
like
at all.
you didn't talk a whole
Yeah,
lot.
I
I felt
know.
kind of bad because I kept like cutting you off a little bit and then
Mhm.
doing that.
No,
So
I agree with you. No, I don't agree with you. I don't think you
I
should.
agree with
I
you.
don't.
You need to shut up.
No, I don't think you should feel bad. I have a tendency to sort of to just sort of take over conversations in person and on the podcast, and looking at the old episodes when I have, it's definitely been pretty clear that I tend to bogart most of the time. Um, but having Stan and Jeff the last couple of weeks has been really good because it allows me to sort of sit back and listen. Um, but I'm happy. Like we were just talking about this, but like the fact that we haven't done this on our own in a couple of weeks, it's like what?
It
It's
feels
so
weird.
quiet,
Yeah. Before we get
so
too
quiet.
far into this, though, I want to do a
Sure.
little bit of housekeeping where uh, I kind of snuck this into the description of one of the last episodes. I think it was the episode with Stan and Worst Bar Experience. But throughout the episode, we called it number three. I think that was it. And then we called it in the title episode number four. Um, and so that is because we recorded a episode before all of these that has never seen the light of day. Um, and so in my mind and kind of in the files, that's always episode number one. But we also call it like episode number zero, episode kind of whatever. So maybe at some point we'll release that. I have no idea. It's pretty bad, so probably not. But for anyone that was
Maybe
confused as to why we referred to it as episode three and then titled it episode four, that's why.
maybe if we hit some kind of sub goal. If we hit some kind of sub goal, we'll
Yeah.
release it.
I was
Um,
looking through the
but
statistics, and it was like a third of people that watch are subscribed. Two-thirds of the people that watch are not subscribed.
which is
And
actually insane considering like the number of people that we know that are subscribed. But then also the like that our stuff is being found by others.
I
Like
don't know. I feel like a lot of the people that are watching this are people that we know and aren't subscribed. So you better change that.
please
Go,
subscribe.
yeah, hit
It
subscribe.
helps keep the lights on.
Yep. No, it doesn't. But
None of my lights are on.
we don't
It's
make
the
money.
morning and the sun comes through the window and I don't need lights. Um, but at night it's very scary. And um, should we get into it?
Yeah,
Should we start talking
let's just skip ahead to it.
about food and food service?
Yeah.
So you Simon, you talked previously on I think in a couple weeks ago you talked about how you worked in a local cafe that also had alcohol on the menu. Tell us a little bit about that, and then let's talk. Let's talk about
Yeah.
our worst.
Yeah, so this is in episode three, episode four, with Stan, where even now I'm gonna call it the wrong one, but
That's all right.
yeah. So I used to work at a cafe in Virgins, Three Squares Cafe. Great place. I love the owner so much. Um, but it was kind of a cafe, kind of a restaurant. So I, for the majority of the time that I was there, did a lot of like prep work, and then if I worked a night shift, I would either be a server or kind of help with the kitchen stuff because I jumped on the line a little bit. It was a very small kitchen. Um, it could probably hold like 3 or 4 people max. Um, they've since moved location and gotten a really nice kitchen, and I'm really jealous that I haven't been able to really work in that yet. Probably won't ever, but yeah.
No,
So
you're older now. You're older now and have your own job, and you don't need to work in the food service industry anymore.
yeah,
But
I did my time. I learned my lessons, and I feel like I'm better because of it. Um,
absolutely, I just want to quickly say, like, yeah, despite everything that we're about to say about like the experiences that we've had working at these at these jobs and these food service in these food service jobs, I do want to say there's like valuable lessons to be learned in any position, including these service roles. You definitely learn a lot of humility and a lot of like ways to
Communication skills and
absolutely 100%.
organization skills. Like I I know that you have a lot of stories that you've told me over the years. Um, but
Keep it
I
cool.
yeah, I feel like I've just in the 2 summers that I worked there learned way more than I did in the 4 years that I was at college. Um,
Mhm.
but essentially, this cafe after like noon, 2, 3, whatever, would switch to mostly being sandwiches, but also having like afternoon specials on the weekends. So Sunday brunch was always big for us, but kind of after that, after all the church ladies had gone home, um,
Mhm.
we would switch to like sandwiches and some like pasta things and stuff like that. So uh, one day we had it was like the summer, and so there were a lot of tourists coming through. Vergennes is a big tourist town for French Canadians and cyclists because we're kind of in the middle of 22A or at the end of 22A, I guess. But all the cyclists will either park there or dock their boats because it's like the place that you can dock your boats
Mhm.
if you go up Otter Creek. Um, and so they would all come into town and, order food and wear their bike shoes inside and scuff up the floor and stuff like that. So uh, I don't think these guys were cyclists, but they were definitely from out of town. Uh, but they would come in, or they came in, and they, one of the guys asked me for a burger and fries, which we didn't have on the menu. Our menu was right behind me, and there was no, I mean, we had like a burger, but we didn't have fries to go with it. And it wasn't that kind of restaurant. And they all wanted that. Like, it was 4 or 5 people that all wanted well done burgers and fries.
Well, that's the worst kind of person anyway, because a well done burger is disgusting.
I mean, I agree with you, but if that's how you like your food, that's how you like your food.
No, no,
Um,
no, no, you're wrong. Anyway.
anyway, this guy, I told him that I'm sorry, we don't have fries. We don't have, there are chips that you can buy separately that are like the bag Deep River chips, but we don't have like house chips or house fries or anything like that. In the morning, we have home fries, but that's it. And after hearing this guy loses it and starts like yelling at me, like, what kind of a restaurant doesn't have a burger and fries? And I'm like, there's a sign right behind you with all of our food on it. Our like dinner specials are right over here. I don't know how you can't read this and say, "Oh, okay, I'm going to order something that's not on the menu at all."
Yeah,
Um,
because this is America, and we have burgers and fries in every restaurant, including the vegetarian ones,
I don't want to say anything
because
that,
this is America.
yeah, I am not an American citizen. I was born in Canada. I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast a
You
whole
did
lot.
actually.
I talked
You
about
mentioned
it a
it.
little bit in the traveling story,
Mm,
um, but I don't want to say anything that's like super inflammatory. I enjoy
Mhm,
being here. I think that there's a lot of fucked up things going on right now, and I don't
mhm,
enjoy the country. I don't enjoy the government a whole lot um,
mhm.
at all. But that's a separate conversation. I
Right. I just more meant like I meant more like the assumption that any restaurant would have burgers and fries.
It's such an
Is
American thing.
exactly.
It's such
And
an
not
American mindset to be like, you know, this is the way that all restaurants are, even if you're
mhm.
this tiny little cafe in Vergennes, Vermont. But this guy loses it and just like starts yelling at me, and so eventually the sous chef, actual sous chef, um, he comes over and is like, "What's going on here?" And this guy starts yelling at him, and he like diffuses the situation. But as like a 18-year-old kid, not really sure what to do, uh, it's terrifying. And so the sous chef Johnny runs to the back and is like, we're just gonna grab home fries. Home fries are fine. We can fire up the flat top and get those ready. They won't be great, but they'll be fries, and kind of diffuses the situation. But as a 18-year-old kid, having some 40-year-old guy freak out at you because you don't have a burger and fries on your menu is it's leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It really lets you know that um, despite despite their age, they may never have learned how to be an adult,
Yeah.
and that they're their maturity never graduated past grade school.
Yep. More or less. Anyway, Sam, what's
So
your worst food experience story? Because you have a different kind of food service experience, I guess.
mhm. um, I wasn't a sous chef. I wasn't a line cook. I wasn't anyone dealing with production of food. I was a delivery driver for Domino's, and I had a I for the longest time, and to be honest, Domino's was like my first real job. I was I never really had a job in high school. I always felt that I was too busy with sports and school, that I never. By the time I was done with practice, I didn't want to go to a job, and I didn't really want to work on the weekends because I had I had races, and I was just tired,
How
and I
late did
didn't want
practice
to.
usually go? I didn't do any
Uh,
sports in high school, so I have no concept of like how late practices or stuff like that went.
sure. I ran track and cross country, and those practices would usually start around like 4 p.m. and go until about 5:30, and then I had to go home and like shower because I was disgusting, and uh, eat dinner, and then do homework or procrastinate homework, um, and then get up at 6 the next morning, go to school, and do everything over 5 days a week. And then usually there were track meets or cross country meets on the weekends on Saturday, and those would be in the morning. So I'd get done with that around like 2 or 3 p.m. maybe, unless it was a very large meet or very far away, in which case you have to factor in travel time or like how many races there are going to be in one day. Um, and then it takes a long time. But this isn't a basically though. I didn't feel like I had time for a job in high school, so
Yeah.
I didn't have a food service job until I was 19, and I didn't have any real job until I was 19, and uh, I'd already been in Vermont for school for a year, and uh, this was basically my first job that where I needed to pay rent for the summer, and I was only working at first I was only working like 20 hours a week, and then over the course of the next couple of years, my in and out of like my credit my like school schedule got thinner and larger and thinner and larger, um, and ended up like I ended up only having I think it was something like 12 credits my second semester of my sophomore year, so I had a lot more time to work, and so I was working at Domino's a lot my sophomore year, pretty much every weekday night, and then on Sunday nights as well. I like to keep my I liked to keep my Friday and Saturday night clear just in case my friends were doing anything. But I was working at Domino's about 35 hours a week and taking classes my sophomore year. But that led to a lot of interactions with customers while I was delivering or at the store. Particularly, there's a few bad ones. I don't know if I want to build up to the worst one.
Okay.
So during my first week, way back in the summer of 2014, I was delivering to the downtown, like a downtown neighborhood right at the edge of our delivery area, and I was called. Our uniform is basically
It's a Domino's
a
uniform.
blue shirt. It's a Domino's uniform.
Anyone
Blue
that's ordered
shirt,
Domino's knows what it is.
exactly. You understand.
Yeah.
You understand. Black pants, visor or hat. I had a visor.
So yesterday was Friday night. We record this on Saturday mornings. In the like 4 or 5 hours between 5 o'clock and 10 o'clock, or like 9 o'clock or whatever, I don't remember when I last saw them. I saw 3 Domino's delivery cars come up to our building on 3 separate trips. Like one, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes after the other, and it may have been the same driver each time. I don't know. Yeah, but there's like a Domino's about 10 minutes walking from my apartment.
Cat sighting. There's a cat sighting.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Yep. We have those.
Is that Finn or Arya?
I think that one's Finn.
They're both black cats.
Yeah, so it's very hard to tell. Especially
Arya,
right now, everything in the background is very dark.
Yeah.
Including my
Arya
shirt.
has a little tuft of white.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Finn.
But anyway, we digress. But basically, I was in my uniform and I was delivering to this neighborhood where several unsavory characters live, and the person I was delivering to was super nice. I was up on like a second story walk up, and from the street there was somebody in their car saw me making this delivery and decided it was right to yell up at me and yell homophobic slurs about describing what I was wearing. And it was I'm not going to get into it because it's very offensive.
Yeah,
and,
I don't want that kind of content on this.
Exactly. I don't either. I didn't want that content in my life, and it didn't make any sense to me. And the person I was delivering to apologized like profusely for their neighbors essentially, and I was like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that this guy's an asshole. And so that was my first week. So that was a real good intro into what I had to look forward to. Several times, like being a student and also delivering to the university, I ran into people who I knew, and that was uncomfortable. Not like the worst, but it was pretty uncomfortable. I think the first time I met my girlfriend's parents, I was delivering.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the first.
Were you delivering to their apartment?
I wasn't delivering to.
Were you delivering to my apartment?
No, I was delivering to her building.
Okay.
I was delivering to her building, and it happened to be a time when they were visiting, but it was before we were dating, and so but the first time I met them, I was delivering pizza, and it ended up becoming a meme that carried through to a wedding the next summer.
Not your wedding.
Not my wedding. I haven't been to a wedding in years, but this other wedding I was referred to as the pizza boy. I heard.
I was there. It was hilarious. We can do that next week.
Sure. But those kinds of experiences, I would have loved to meet Julia's parents on different terms, and there are several times like when you're having a bad night as a person who's working for tips, when you're having a bad night and you just need like a jolt, you need like a good tip, like just to get your night going, and getting a delivery to the college or to the university is usually not the way to do it. And so I would end up taking like 4 or 5 deliveries at once, because on like a Thursday night everyone is ordering food, and I would end up taking like 4 or 5 deliveries at once. I'm hoping for like $1.50, $2 a tip, and I'm getting nothing.
Yeah,
because they're poor college students. So or they don't realize that I work for tips. So, um, and things like that would always frustrate me. Things like that would put me in a mood. It would definitely impact me. But by far, number one, the worst, horrible experience. This was in the last couple of months that I was working there full time before I switched industries. Uh, I talking about a bad night. I we worked in a working at Domino's as a delivery driver. You work with several other drivers at the same time, especially on busy nights. I happened to be working this time on a Friday or Saturday night. I can't remember, but it was a weekend night, and we had lots of deliveries. And except that it had been slow right around dinner time, and so our manager felt the need to cut one of us, and so they cut the earliest scheduled person. They said, okay, there's too many of you here. Um, this will make it a little bit easier given the number of orders we're getting. It's probably going to be a slow night. The moment they left, things picked up dramatically. Um, and so I was taking like normally we would take like 1 to 2 orders at a time per trip out of the store. I ended up on multiple 5 stops, and yeah, we had a couple big bags for these situations to keep the pizza warm, keep the food warm. But I had the weirdest 5 stop. Basically, I had 4 at the college, and then I had to go like 5 miles down the road to this random house in a really nice subdivision in the neighboring town. And
5 miles down the road is pretty much the other end of your delivery radius too, right?
yeah, 100%. It is about as far away as you can get from the store.
Yep.
And in both ways, because the college was bookended by one of the boundaries, and so I had to go like toe the line of the boundary and then all the way down another road, uh, and it probably took me about 45 minutes to get there. And I think Domino's used to have a policy that was if they didn't get it within 30 minutes, it was free, um, and so that played a little bit into my experience. It took me about 45 minutes to get to this person's house, and I, um, I had already found out. I got a call from my manager saying that this person had called the store wondering where I was,
Hmm.
and I explained to my manager that my manager explained to them, and I explained to my manager, like, well, I just had to do a 4 stop at the university, and then I had come down. It's like, well, why did you take this one? You assigned me this route. I don't know why you're saying this is my fault. Um, that why did you take this 5 stop with this random one over here? It's like,
Yeah.
you told me to.
Shifting blame.
And yeah, shifting blame, because that happens a lot. um People unwilling to accept that they made this happen. Um and I ended up over at this person's house with their food. It had been 45 minutes since I left the store, and I felt really bad because they were clearly wondering where their food was, and it wasn't going to be as warm as it would have been if I'd just gone there first. But they were the 5th order in the rotation. I wanted to be fair. I wanted to bring stuff as it was made, as close to when it was made as possible. And this was an unfortunate situation. So the person had already paid. They'd already paid via credit card, and I handed them the receipt so they could sign it. They wrote, as many people who were frustrated with tip workers do, they wrote $0 for the tip, and then threw the receipt back at me and spit at my feet. And I I had to take a moment. I was like very very surprised, and I had to collect myself. And then they slammed the door in my face, and I walked back to my car, and I sat there for a moment, thinking, "What the hell just happened? I just got spat at because their pizza was late." And this is a nice neighborhood, and never, like, I never would have expected this to happen, given the first story I told.
Yeah.
In a completely different neighborhood, a totally expected situation. I didn't expect to be called a homophobic slur, but I expected unsavory comments from that neighborhood. I did not expect this from a person who lived in a house that looked like that, like the
Yeah.
way this house does.
Yeah.
Um,
If I'm remembering what neighborhood this was, because I we weren't living together at the same time
it's right
at
by
this
the
time.
golf course, right by
Yeah.
a golf course.
Yeah. There are a couple. but it's not a neighborhood that you would expect people like that to live in.
Not exactly. People who are willing to spit at food service workers who are apologetic, and you have already given them a $0 tip, and you they already have recognized that you're unhappy with the service that's happened this evening, but perhaps you don't normally order from Domino's on a busy Friday, Saturday night, and don't know that it's crazy and
Yeah.
can take a little bit longer than expected. Um, I think that really plays into like privilege, and they wanted it when they wanted it, and they didn't get it as quickly as they wanted, so they let it out on the first person they could.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I hope that I hope that anybody watching this is not the kind of person that would spit at their delivery driver's feet because their food was 15 minutes late. But I would hope that telling this story encourages people to recognize that when something like that happens, it's not the delivery driver's fault. It's the manager or whoever is like directing them. And like sometimes there's just nothing you can do. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I thankfully have never had to do a delivery before. That's not true. I had to do one, but we can save that for after the podcast, and we'll release that separately. But it's it's always weird. Just if you work in food service, you understand why people are like that, and hopefully you're better because of it. But
Mhm.
I would never be able to do
Yeah.
Domino's
I
delivery.
mean, for a little while after that, I was just so taken aback by everything that like I was taken aback by that whole situation. Like we had people that we knew would call in and complain if we didn't put like the right sauces with their pizza. Like we had people, and they would demand a free pizza because of that, um, and we would fold because we don't want to lose a customer.
Yeah.
And the that whole experience like soured me on delivery driving in general, and I I couldn't do it anymore. I like 2 or 3 months later, I got a job at the liquor store where I met Stan, and the rest is history. I've moved on so far from that. Like I haven't worked at Domino's in 4+ years, and I'm I'm better for it, I'd say. And but I'm thankful that I saw basically as low as it can go with like customer service industry and the food service industry. Like you can't please everybody.
No.
It's just not gonna happen. But you gotta still try. You gotta
Yeah.
do your best. You gotta try. And if things don't go your way, you deal with it as it comes. But you talk it out with your buddy on your podcast.
Yep. Yeah. No, that sounds shitty. But
It does.
anyway,
It did suck. It did suck. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. We're trying to keep these episodes a little shorter than we have in the past just because we know that a lot of people aren't watching them all the way through, and it's hard to sit through a 30 to 45 minute episode. So if you made it this far, thank you. If you're not already subscribed, like, comment, share, give us any feedback. If you want to see a specific topic, reach out. Our Instagram and at least my Twitter. I don't know if your Twitter is Samuel Dude, but
It's not.
it's not. I will add some kind of clarifying thing to that. But yeah, if you made it this far, thanks, and have a good one.